Years ago, a dwarf named Corta Glintstone was an ally and agent of Clan Axebreaker, a moderately influential dwarven clan in a stronghold called Guntelgrim. She built a network of informants and agents to benefit the clan, and with each success she paid to get a new tattoo, which she in turn used the magic of Guntelgrim's forges to infuse them, granting her wondrous gifts. Corta grew too ambitious and began to devise a plan to take power for herself. It took her nearly 5 years, but eventually she was able to take stock of all of Clan Axebreaker's wealth, and in one fell swoop she used her network to steal the majority of the gold and treasure. The Axebreaker dwarves are not idiots, and they found out almost immediately. They were able to round up her agents, and they killed them. Eventually they captured Corta herself, but she would never reveal the location of the stolen fortune. Even magic wouldn't work. So she was sentenced to life in prison at Revel's End, the same prison from Honor Among Thieves. Corta, now known as Prisoner 13, is running a spy and criminal network from inside the prison by using her magical tattoos to telepathically coordinate agents around the world. As for what remains of the stolen Axebreaker's wealth, it rests in an unmarked vault in the depths of Gruntelgrim, sealed by a magical lock that only Corta's magic tattooed right hand can open. I'm John, and you're watching Dragons and Flagons. Today I'm going to continue our exploration of the Wizards of the Coast anthology book Keys from the Golden Vault with the adventure Prisoner 13. Prisoner 13 was originally released as a preview adventure for this book, and it's still available to claim on D&D Beyond if you're interested. I'll leave a link in the description. Prisoner 13 is a 4th level prison heist adventure, where a party of characters is hired to infiltrate the icy prison of Revel's End to get information from a prisoner so the dwarven treasure vault can be unlocked. Okay, here's your spoiler warning. If you're planning on playing this adventure in the future or want to read it yourself or think that knowing anything about this story in advance will spoil your experience with this adventure in any way, back out now. After years of financial hardship due to their stolen fortune, Clan Axebreaker has finally located the lost treasure, but they cannot access it. Whether you're using the Golden Vault or another method to hook the characters, ultimately, the players must be introduced to Varen Axebreaker. Varen explains that the clan has located the stolen treasure, but are unable to get past the magical lock, and he wants you to recover the key in exchange for a percentage of the recovered treasure. The trick is, the only person who knows how to open the lock is rotting away in prison. So the players must gain access to the prison, question the prisoner, and learn how to open the vault. How they get this done is completely up to the players, but Varen does provide a special gem to each player that melts into their skin. When it's activated, it will display a holographic map that's only visible to the characters using it, and it's of the entire prison. The map shows that the cells, each highlighted in red, are blanketed in permanent anti-magic, as well as the location of Prisoner 13. It also provides a feature to open the door or hatch by just touching the image, which will suppress the arcane lock spell for a full minute, or until another lock is suppressed. Finally, the map provides the guard's patrol route. Varen will also provide additional information if the characters ask. He can fill in many details around the background of the treasure and who Prisoner 13 really is. He's also willing to negotiate the payment, initially offering 2% of whatever is in the vault, but he can be talked up to 3% with a DC 20 persuasion check. Most importantly, he can provide entering the prison as well as escape route information. Entering is something I would offer up right away if the players don't ask. Varen will explain that the prison staff rotates out periodically, and his agents are standing by to replace the guards or cooks so that the characters can take their place. But if your characters don't ask about the escape route or information around that, you really have two options. You can be a nice DM and offer it up, similar to entering the prison, but on the other hand, watching them scramble at the end could be rather humorous, especially if you've already provided all of that entrance information. You can only give them so much. The actual trek to the prison is pretty uneventful. The trip will take 3 days, and this is where uniforms are acquired. It could provide some good roleplay opportunities, but it really isn't critical to the story. Okay. Before I go much further, let me explain what Revel's End is. Revel's End is a panopticon prison controlled by the Lord's Alliance. Situated on the coast of the Sea of Moving Ice, It consists of a single-story structure topped with battlements and a tower that holds the prison administrative offices and guard barracks, both carved from windbreak, a tall, blade-shaped rock. The prison can be approached by land, sea, or air, and prisoners must have committed a serious crime against one or more of the Lord's Alliance's member cities to be imprisoned here. The prison has a 20-foot high outer wall and a flat 20-foot high ceiling throughout, with reinforced iron doors and hatches held shut by arcane lock spells. Interior spaces are magically heated to a consistent 68 degrees Fahrenheit. That's 20 degrees Celsius for anyone else that's not in the United States. And the prison is brightly lit with a continual flame spell. The prison has a garrison of 75 guards who work 8-hour shifts, and prisoners wear manacles on their wrists and ankles while outside of their cells. All prisoners are identified by a number and wear a uniform consisting of a hoodless robe without pockets, leather slippers without laces, and cloth undergarments. Outside the prison, it's extremely cold, at or below 0 degrees Fahrenheit, minus 18 degrees Celsius. While it doesn't explicitly state it, I think this should be pretty common knowledge, and you should provide the characters an opportunity to buy cold weather gear before going on their journey, or possibly it could even be provided by Varen himself. The prison has 4 guard towers, each with 3 guards stationed on the top of each one. If a perception check is needed, each guard group would make a check rather than every individual guard, and the tower should roll with advantage. If the guards do see something, one guard will immediately descend into the tower to alert the rest of the prison while the others stay and watch their posts. All in all, if the characters use the cover Varen provided, getting inside should be pretty simple. If the characters are posing as guards, they're taken to the barracks where they can meet the head guard, Eula. Characters posing as cooks, they're delivered to the kitchen where they'll report to the chef. If the characters decide to go their own way, they will need to bang on the north or south door where guards will let them in. Once inside, they will confiscate all of the weapons and store them in a nearby lockbox. But with a bit of sleight of hand, it is possible that a character could smuggle a dagger or a similarly sized weapon. From there, the characters will be escorted to a meeting room and they'll be left unattended for an hour, allowing the characters to get into all sorts of trouble. But in the end, they will have to meet the warden. If they've provided a satisfactory reason for their visit, they'll get temporary accommodations up to 2 nights and 2 days. And if not, they're given their weapons and their belongings back and escorted out of the building. Now that the party's in the building, we should talk about the new mechanic called suspicion. Basically, if strange things start to happen or if your characters are caught doing something that they shouldn't, the guards will start getting a little suspicious. Some things that can tip off the guards are getting caught by a patrol, casting a spell, or chatting with a prisoner about anything other than prison business. For suspicion to increase, a prison staff member must witness the unusual activity. The good news is the characters can create a distraction, allowing the characters to make a deception check against the DC set on the suspicion table. With that being said, logic still takes precedence here. For example, a glib conversation can't cover up an explosion. So suspicion has 6 levels. When the characters first enter, their level is at 1. And as soon as things start to happen, that level can increase. Every 8 hours without a detected suspicious activity will lower that level by 1. Within this table is a suspicion DC. It starts at 10 and increases by 2 all the way up to DC 20 at level 6. The guard patrol routes are influenced by the suspicion level. The guards patrol in pairs, checking out multiple rooms in a 4-minute cycle. Each time a character enters the patrol route, a patrol die is rolled from the suspicion table based off of the current suspicion level that we're at. Whew, alright. So if a 1 is rolled, the character encounters a patrol. This is where the fun stuff can kind of take place, depending on how creative your players are. In the end, the patrol will either need to let them go or take the characters to the guard room to be interrogated. If the interrogation happens, the suspicion level increases by 1. If the suspicion level ever reaches 6, and the warden hears about it, she'll put the prison into high alert, and the following effects will happen. For 1 minute, the warning horn blares throughout the prison. All the lights created by the continual flame spells, they take on a reddish hue. The guards don their armor, arm themselves, and move to the surveillance hub. And the warden and all of the guards gain the benefit of the see invisibility spell. For the next leg in this walkthrough, we're going to take a look at Revel's End itself. I quickly created a new map above VTT, and I've added our logo as the token. Now let's walk room by room and see what we can find. So here we are on Revel's End map. It's the map that's provided by the book. So I'm not doing anything special here. All I've done here is kind of populated it with some of the NPCs and or creatures, monsters, whatever you want to call them, into the maps, just so we can kind of walk through room by room and see what's going on. As I zoom in here, we start with the assumption that we are starting on the dock. We've gone through Varen's plan here. So here's my little Dragons and Flagons person. You stop on the dock. You start on the dock where ships dock here to offload prisoners and supplies. As you move into the next spot, there's an elevator. Basically, it's a 160-foot high elevator that will raise you up to the next level so you can actually get into the prison itself. It's a 1-minute trip up, and really not a lot's going to happen in these areas until the end if you're trying to get out, if this is your mode of exit. Once you get into the prison itself, we do have a couple different areas here. The guard rooms, all of the R3s on this map. Let me see if I can zoom out a little bit more. I believe there's a couple other ones. Yeah, there's a few R3s. These are guard rooms. These are where 3 guards, veteran stat blocks. They're all stationed in these rooms. These 2 rooms, really. The guards pass the time by playing cards and sharpening their weapons and complaining about the weather. It's really just a place to put all of these 75 guards that are throughout this entire map here. R4 is the hospital, where you can pick up some poisons and medicines and things along those lines. Basically, if you have got an alchemist, they can find some supplies in there. It shows a spot R5 where there's a stable. So if your characters did come in on their own, maybe using a dog sled or some sort of thing, you could store your animals there. It explicitly kind of says visitors who bring their mounts, sled dogs, pack animals, or pets, they can keep their animals here, but the prison doesn't supply food for animals. So if they do that and you want to go so far as a DM to kind of monitor those things, if people are attached to them, maybe make them come by and feed their animals or have them starve. I don't know how mean you want to be. From there, the 6th room is over here on the right-hand side. You can zoom in a little bit here. This is the mess hall. Basically, it's a nice place where you can eat your food, have some good role play, but also the benefit of this room is that you can meet here without really arousing any suspicion. Below the mess hall are the counselor's quarters. So there are 10 rooms that are furnished identically. Each contains a bed, a desk, and a matching chair, and all of the normal things that you would have in there. But also the council members, 3 members of the Absolution Council are at Revel's End. You have Counselor Voss Anderton, Counselor Jill Torbo, and Counselor Creve Norixis. The first is a human, the second is a halfling, and the third was a dragonborn. Each of these counselors are similar to, if you've seen Honor Among Thieves, it's the patrol officers. Between the 3 of them and the warden, they get to basically decide if someone gets to leave or not. It doesn't explicitly give them a huge role in here, but they're just more NPCs that are here that can interact with the characters, potentially adding complications or something along those lines. They do have a couple interesting stats with them, not stats per se, but like quirks about them that could come in handy at some point. From there, we go into the kitchen and the side rooms. There's 6 cooks that are in the kitchen at all times. Well, there's 2 cooks in the actual kitchen, and then 4 others are off duty. Apparently, they don't leave the kitchen area; they just stay in their bedroom. The other rooms are for cold storage as well as a pantry. Room 9. There's multiple versions of these. In the corners, there are. Let me make sure I'm displaying this correctly. I am. In room 9 here, R9, zoom out a touch. You can see that there's 4 of them in the corners. These are all the guard towers. These are four rectangular towers. They are 2 stories tall. And basically you have 3 soldiers in each one, all looking out and keeping track of the skies and the seas and everything, making sure that the prison stays safe. This is where the one guard will go down and inform the prison if something bad is coming. They have iron hatches in here, and they're held shut with an arcane lock spell. Room 10 over on the right hand side, that's an armory. There is a specter that guards this armory and treats the weapons like treasure. It knows every member of the prison staff on site, and it won't leave the room and attacks anyone it doesn't recognize. But if you need weapons and they've all been confiscated for some reason, or you lost them in whatever way, this is a place where your people can go in and find things. They have halberds, long swords, short swords, pikes, crossbows, heavy and light, as well as hundreds and hundreds of bolts. So you can be well armed if you can unarmed fight a specter or sneak in and out. Near that is the courtyard over here in R11. Basically, it's a paved flagstone area. It's an outside spot that allows the prisoners on nice days to go out and get a little fresh air. Room 12 is a meeting room. It holds a large rectangular table with a single chair on the long side and 3 similar chairs on the opposite. The room is used for meetings with prisoners or the warden. The storeroom is in 13, which is basically right next to the large meeting room. Here, crates and other containers, stockpiles of necessities and everything that they'd need for really the next 6 months. The privy happens to be right next door. Lots of buckets and things, and yeah, if you've got a problem player, they got to go clean the privy. There's a nice little hexagon shape around the prisoner area here. That is what they call the hexagon. This corridor allows guards and visitors to access the outermost rooms of the prison while avoiding the prison cells and the watchtower. It's a way to get around without actually getting into the general population area. And then that prison tower is that 16. Here is the hexagonal chamber with a large open space in the center of the prison. Cells line the chamber walls, and smaller hexagonal rooms occupy the center space. The continual flame spell is in this chamber, can be dimmed from the surveillance hub, which is the 18 room here. The cells, all of these rooms in the center here are the cells. They have you can roll for a 4d10 to see how many prisoners there are in here, and they've got a d6 kind of table that you can roll on to see what type of prisoner if you want to go speak with people. At any given moment, though, prisoner 13 will be located in the top right hand corner over here. From there is the surveillance hub. It's right in the center. Basically, it is the main room where everyone is being watched. There is a console in the magical device that resembles a desk. It's bolted to the floor and has some hit points and what have you. It basically runs the entire show. It has gate control and light control, loudspeakers. And there are 6 other guards in this room, 7 counting the person on the council table, the helm. But those 6 other guards are watching all of the other prisoners, just in case something happens. Room 19 is the barracks. They show it down in the bottom area. 19, 20, 21, and 22, and 23 are all basically upper levels of that centered room, the surveillance hub room. The barracks basically is a room with 50 guards in it at any given moment. They will be sleeping. It'll take them about 10 minutes to put on their armor and get ready to go fight or do whatever they need to do. So you'll have a little bit of time, so you won't be facing 50 guards if you cause a ruckus. But in the end, you're going to be facing 50 guards if you cause a ruckus. Above that is the Hall of Absolution. This is basically, let me zoom in on this so we can see it a little better. This is basically the room where the meetings happen if you're looking to get out of prison. You want that get out of jail free card or whatever it is. This is the place you go. Next to that room is the warden's quarters. There's an arcane lock on the door, and it can only be opened by the warden. Beyond the door is the warden's comfortable chamber. The warden is a human mage who speaks common, draconic, dwarvish, orcish. She's a red-robed wizard. She's also a member of the Harpers, which is kind of convenient, seeing that she's a good guy. Her job is to make sure that, the worst of the worst stay in this place and they don't get out. She has quite a few little things in her room, from calligrapher supplies to a sack of 750 gold. There's also a wand of binding in here, so you might be able to get your hands on some of those things. Among other things that are in here are also ledgers that have a list of every prisoner that's ever been in here, which could come in handy later on in the game. Below the warden's room is an office. Basically, its prison records are stored in here and things along those lines. Finally, we'll move over to the roof tower, 400 to 140 feet above the prison roof and 300 feet above sea level. The 6-foot high walls to the north and south provide limited cover, but much of the rooftop is exposed to the elements. Basically, this is just the tower area. No guards are in this area. No one really wants to be in this area. It's mainly used if there's an airship. They can drop people off in this spot. But that really covers the vast majority of all of the different places. I know I've really breezed through it, but there's really not much to it. It is a prison, and there are places to explore. There's places to hide and places to go, but it's a prison. So you're going to be doing a lot of role-playing and a lot of sneaking. Okay, so let's now dig into Prisoner 13 a bit more. Prisoner 13 is a cunning and ruthless NPC who is comfortable with the anonymity and ironic protection of Revel's End. She's a patient observer, absorbing every detail while sharing as little as possible. Despite being confined to an anti-magic cell, she's cautious and grows overconfident outside of it, even banters with guards whenever possible. In battle, she poses a potential threat, using her magic tattoos to create blasts of flame and strike with magical force in a melee or ranged combat. Prisoner 13 spends her time contemplating her network of schemes through her agents outside the prison and contacts them during her daily exercises or chores in the courtyard to keep her network running. One of the many interesting features of Prisoner 13 are her tattoos. While most of the ink is covered by her prison uniform, the adventure does talk about each one. The first one it mentions is the Dwarven poetry. An excerpt from a poem in Dwarvish script is on her neck and across her shoulder blades. It reads, endless Endless dreams entombed in stone. Flames is another one of her tattoos. A rolling storm of brilliant flames covers her back and ribs. Black and gray smoke and shadows coil down her left arm, ending in runes on the fingers of her left hand. It's the Shroud tattoo. The knotwork tattoo is purple and blue knotwork and runes run down her right arm, across the back of her right hand, and down the length of each finger. The runes on her fingers, known as the Keystone Tattoo, form the keys to the vault in Gruntelgrim. The characters must acquire this key to complete their mission. The Mountain Tattoo. Silver and brown mountain peaks cover her chest, the tips following the angles of her collarbone. River Tattoo. Swirling green and blue waters form a cascading river across her stomach, with scaly creatures leering from the water. And the Power and Plunder Tattoo. Dwarvish script on her hips read Power and Plunder. Traced among Prisoner 13's tattoos are tiny magical sigils, each one matching a twin tattoo on one of her agents. A character who examines any visible tattoos and succeeds in a DC 15 investigation check will notice some of the hidden marks. A character who succeeds in a DC 15 Arcana check determines that the sigils have something to do with minds or telepathy. But the most important part is acquiring the key. Prisoner 13 will play dumb when talking about the key and will act surprised if anyone mentions freedom. But in the end, neither will really move her. She has interest in a ledger found within the warden's chambers. It contains the names, crimes, and the prisoner numbers of everyone that's ever been incarcerated here. Ultimately, Prisoner 13 wants to read the ledger outside of the cell so that she can send that information to her informants. It'll take her 20 minutes to read through the documents and telepathically relay the information to her agents for later use. Following that, she'll reveal that the tattoos on her right hand is the key to the vault. She will allow the characters to study it, and they can also replicate it using magic such as Disguise Self or Minor Illusion, or even copy it with pen and ink. In any case, the characters must succeed in a DC 15 Arcana check to correctly recreate the tattoo, which requires 10 minutes of study or drawing. The characters can retry if they fail, at the cost of more time and more risk of discovery. Another option is whenever Prisoner 13 talks about the key, or the key is brought up to her, the players can roll an insight check with a DC 19. If successful, they'll notice that she's flexing her right hand and tracing her fingertips across the tattoo there, allowing characters to deduce that the tattoo is the key. Once they've figured this out, they have a few options. First, you can try to break her out of jail. She doesn't want to go, so it'll be a little more difficult than it sounds. Also, you'll need to actively escape in the cold environment. And remember, we needed the escape plan at the very beginning of this. Or they could kill Prisoner 13 and take her body, or just her arm. And we're back to our escape plan, but this time we're just bringing a body or arm or body parts with us. The Golden Vault won't be too thrilled with this option, but you gotta do what you gotta do. In the end, if you're successful, Varen does pay up, and the party will receive a bunch of coins and gems, as well as 3 magic items from the list provided. They'll include a cap of water breathing, dust of disappearance, gem of brightness, mithril armor, potion of resistance, lightning, or slippers of spider climbing. I might have to do a video on each one of these. Overall thoughts, I kind of like this one. It's fun, it requires a lot of creative thinking from the players, similar to the casino heist where you need to kind of blend in with the environment, but better because everything seems to have a purpose. While the casino NPCs really don't matter, and if you seem fishy or not, they don't care. The guards here do. There's the whole suspicion rule and all of those. They have a job to perform, and there's no guarantee that they're going to be in the same place twice because they're doing something. There aren't any new magic items or monsters or anything in here, but there are creative uses for existing magic items. Prisoner 13 NPC could be used outside of this adventure as a quote-unquote monster. and she has some pretty unique powers through her tattoos. I do wish they made her tattoos into their own magical items that I could put on my own characters, but you can't have everything. I really like the suspicion mechanics. I think they could be used in other places. Anytime that you're in a castle or a mayor's house or really anywhere that there's guards, it could be a really fun addition to if you remember to add it in there. Well, that about wraps this one up. Please let me know what you think. Do you like this sort of content? Do you want me to go even deeper? Am I doing things right or wrong? Your comments, I've got thick skin, so let me know, but your comments really do help me. And if you've stuck around this long, thank you. Please consider liking and subscribing. I really do enjoy your comments, and I do try to respond to everybody. Until next time, thank you for watching, and happy adventuring.